off again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. That is the professionals with Mitch and Stu. Good evening, lads.
Good evening. How are you?
Good to see you all, and happy Father's Day, first and foremost, everybody out there. There'll be no rain stop and play on NUFC Matters, although it has stopped the cricket, probably in the nick of time, as me and Mitch were discussing before we came on there. England 28 for 2, yeah, let's hope that rain stays in for the rest of the day, because I don't fancy England's chances with the way the Aussie bowlers are bowling. But on to football, and let's talk, Stu. Let's talk international football first. Congratulations to Scotland.
Thank you. Beat Norway away. I put a tweet out last night saying the best Arsenal player on the team, the best Man City player on the team, and we had QPR's reserve striker up front for us, and we still managed to beat them. I was talking to JC in the morning. I was trying to get some team news off him, but he wasn't giving us any. And then he started laughing. I says, "What are you laughing at?" He says, "Check your WhatsApp." So I went on WhatsApp, and then it was only the poster for the show with me having pink hair, wasn't it?
Ah.
That had been sent on to him when he's in with the Scotland team, and he thought it was funny. And he says, what was it? He says, "Do people listening to you talk shit?" He says, "I've listened to that for 20 odd years, man." Says, you'll be surprised. So I'm over in August. I'll be having a night out with him and the lads.
Well done to JC. Always good to see. Good to see the lads winning. I'm pleased for him, if nothing else. Joe Linton, who I'm
Could
pleased.
Be next summer. They've qualified. They've got to qualify now. Beat Georgia and Cyprus, and I think they've qualified.
Be fantastic. Let's move on to Joe Linton, no, Stu. Brazilian international. It is the most amazing turnaround, probably in football in recent years. And he marked his debut with a goal, Stu, and that was, for us, well-deserved. We know he can do it. Substituted eventually for Bruno, of course, but fantastic to see him score a goal last night.
So impressive. You couldn't make it up. I think if it was, it's got more... Remember the movie Goal? If you look at that, Joe Linton's story is better, but less believable. And I, for one, had written him off. You know, he couldn't score. He couldn't trap the ball. He was getting knocked over. But what come with it? It wasn't just one thing, but there was 3 or 4 things that happened in the space of a couple of months for him. First, we need to thank Kieran Clark for getting sent off and him having to drop back in. And then during the course of his tenure here, his English got better. So you could understand more what was being said to him in directing. And then I think with Bruno joining as well, he had someone he could relate to and someone he could talk to, someone he could confide in. And all the time you could see he's been doing the gym work. I think Mitch refers to him as a cruiserweight boxer quite a lot. And his confidence just went through the roof. A few good games. But his ability, it's all right for us now sitting here being wise after the event, saying it was always there. We never seen it. Not for the first season anyway. You know, he could have been the biggest flop in most expensive flop in the club's history. And he's turned out now to be a really, really essential part of the squad. And it's great that it's happened at Newcastle because we've seen us as a club move people on. You know, John Dole Thompson springs to mind. Then you could also mention Hosco getting a regular game for type of Spain and signing for Real Madrid. You know, so we've been quick to discard people, and maybe because of the takeover looming and because of Mike Ashley saying he's not going to give any money, they couldn't sell him anyway because they wouldn't have got much for him. And so it was a case of keep what we've got. So everything happened for a reason, and thankfully the cards fell our way. And, you know, he loves playing for Newcastle. You can see it. And I couldn't be happier for him. Really, really couldn't be happier. I think it's a great slogan for the harder you work, the luckier you get. And the lad's put the graft in, and he needs to reap the rewards, and he's getting them now. Represent his country. And it's not just any country. It's not like having a game for Lithuania. This is Brazil. and he didn't look out the place in their midfield, and he doesn't look out the place in their midfield. And I'm sure he'll become a regular for them now. And we've got him in our squad, and for that we need to be grateful and thankful, and long may it continue for him.
Mitch?
Look, I gather the Brazilian manager is a very stats-minded guy, and if you look at his stats over the last season, that he's in the top 5 box-to-box midfielders in Europe in every metric you look at. And I think that's the kind of impact he's had. For us, his versatility as well. He swaps in and out on that left-hand side from wide left to a more inside left, and as needed can be an enforcer if he has to. If we look at some of his tackles in his own half and tackles in his own box, it's phenomenal rate. And that tells me one thing: work rate. He's got the fitness and ability to be Eddie Howe fit. You know, we talk about, is a player match fit or is he Eddie Howe fit? And I think he's the greatest example. He's put that work in. But it's been seen for a lot longer than people realise, certainly within Newcastle United. I saw on Twitter the day, I think it was the lads from Gallagher Shots retweeted something, an old interview with Sean Longstaff and Joe Linton, where Longstaff builds Joe Linton up very highly in the post-match interview, and Joe Linton's quite humble about it. But it's obvious he's had the support from his own players around him who've been saying, if we play in 5-a-side, I want him on my side because we win. and you get excited when you have to play with him, and when your fellow professionals are saying things like that about you. It's certainly been seen within the club, but now he's been able to produce that on the pitch in front of 50,000. You know, you've talked about players who have sliding doors moments in their careers, and that's one that's gone the right way. John Dal Thomason, you know, what if Shearer hadn't got injured, because going into that pre-season he was on fire. But what if he hadn't missed that shot against Sheffield Wednesday in the opening game, and his confidence was high? Where could he have gone, and where could we have gone that season? You talk about Joselu. The thing I always said about Joselu, the thing that impressed me about him was he kept going. He was getting in the positions to miss the chances. If he wasn't getting in the positions, that was more of a problem. And so, you know, all these things come round in football, and sometimes players have their moment at a specific club that changes the direction of their career, and hopefully, you know, we're going to reap the benefit of that for the next few years with Joe Linton, because he's made himself an integral part of our team, and we're disappointed when he's not on the pitch. And I think that's a phenomenal turnaround if you think about it.
Yeah, Barry says Big Joe's unique among the Brazil squad. No one else plays his style in their team. He looked class and so confident with the goal. Okay, Barry also says a story breaking about a massive bid for Tchouaméni from Real Madrid. Is there any truth in it, guys? Not heard that one, Barry. Got to be honest. Add him to your list, though. Yeah, and try and get the pronunciation right first time, like I have. But yeah, Stu, what's your thought about that? It's a big name player. I have heard of him.
It's a big name. Never mind a big name player. So
get plenty in Scrabble for that.
I was going to say, like, you'd be the champion for that, but I was thinking about this yesterday. Not Tchouaméni, but if we've been linked, I'm sure Barry will give us the figures later. There's got to be in excess of 200 people now. Now, realistically, we're going to sign, I would say, 4 first team or squad players anyway. That'll come in and improve the squad that we've got. That gives you a 2% success rate if you named all 200 and you got the 4 right. So the old saying of throwing enough shit at the wall and some will stick is pretty apt in this. And it's something I said a couple of weeks back as well, Steve, that if we're not getting linked with everyone and anyone who's a decent player, then the agents aren't doing their jobs properly. And that's exactly what's happening. All of a sudden, Newcastle's interested. Right, we'll bid in a jet. They'll use us to raise the prices. And I'm quite certain if Tchouaméni wasn't on the list already, I don't think he'd be added to it. The research that the scouting network have been doing has been extensive. Not just about he's a good player, but it's about the guy's personality, his traits, what he does outside of the training ground, what's his home life like, is it settled, etc., etc. So we'll be linked with probably another 40 people this week, and out of that 40, there'll still only be 4 more signed. So it's great that we're getting linked with quality players, and and I'll just keep repeating my mantra. I'm going to sit back and relax and trust the people, trust the process, trust the ones who are doing the job to get the right people in, knowing that we won't get our pants pulled down. But one thing I will say is we'll definitely be spending more than 75 million. That's for absolute certainty.
Yeah, it's an exciting name. We were talking about it before we came on air, Mitch, weren't we?
Yeah, and I think if there's any truth in that, that's phenomenal. It shows the level of our pitching at. It shows the level of ambition. There's something we did pick up on a couple of weeks ago that somebody who was on the list had suddenly seemingly been removed from the list. And it seems like the ambition has gone higher for some reason. And it wasn't long after certain meetings at St James's Park with the hierarchy there. And so I suspect, as ever, or as is now, nobody really knows that much, and everything's being kept in their wraps. And I think that's a good way to be. We'll get little hints of things every now and again, but I think it's certainly not as open as it has been in the past. And we don't want to take any of his lot, that's for sure.
No, I can see him hovering in the background. He's like a ghostly apparition. Are you delivering drinks?
Yes. Thank you.
Still got the same dress sense, I say. Anyway.
No, he's still got the same. He just wait till he sees what I've had to do with shopping list while I've been sat here.
Absolutely.
Now, the thing is, with players like that, and the clubs that they're coming from, to me, it's too much for us at the moment. Not budget-wise, but like financial fair play-wise. It's not as if the owners couldn't afford it. No. But you have to keep the balance right as well with the squad. And if these people are on £200,000+ a week already, and they're coming from Real Madrid, they'll see at the moment Newcastle have stepped down. So the places we need to be looking at is the people who are aware of us. To me, this is why I think Eddie Howe's focused primarily on the Premier League, because the buzz is in the country, it's in the league. People know Newcastle are on the up. And then looking, if you're going overseas, to get the talent with the potential at a fairer price, a la Bruno, a la Isaac, a la Botman, because Isaac, even though he broke the record, he's worth more than what we paid for him now. Absolutely certainly, he's worth more than that now. So we have to be careful ourselves of not getting too carried away with who we're being linked with, because we'll be linked with just about everyone. And you know what? There's not a player on this planet that we could not afford to buy, but it's the knock-on effect that comes with it. You know, so you have to take all things into consideration and think, right, Eddie Howe will be the ringmaster, and he'll be deciding this is a place, these areas I need to improve on. These are the type of players I'm looking for. Dan Ashworth will go and prove his worth. The scouting team will go and prove their worth, and then they'll have I'm sure they already have had many get-togethers and have a list and say, right, priority, that's the one I want first. But if I get him, I won't need him for that position because he complements him better. So, and it goes back to the old, you need a willing buyer, a willing seller, and a willing player.
I'm also quite sure the moves that they're making with their own league won't be made independently without an eye cast Newcastle United to say, is this messing up your plans? Is this somebody you want to get involved with directly? And all we need to worry about is Newcastle United and be happy with what's happening at Newcastle United. And everything else around that is fluff and nonsense and noise. I know a lot of people are getting worried about it, or the Saudis shooting themselves in the foot and this, that, and the other. They want to disrupt football the way they've disrupted golf. And they've got no spending restraints in Saudi. There's no FFP in Saudi. And they've got more than enough money to run 4 teams in Saudi and run Newcastle United successfully. However, with Newcastle United, there are constraints in place from both the Premier League and UEFA that we have to recognise and tug the forelock to. Everybody knows me what 3 words now.
No!
This is a family show.
And so I'm quite chilled about it. I'm quite happy to let them do what they feels right for them there, because I'm also quite sure there's enough people making their mouth go about what's right for Newcastle United in terms of Amanda, Maida, Jamie Rubin, other people on the board, the manager, who seems to be given far more and has been given far more control than I think they ever expected to hand over to a manager. My understanding goes back to when he come in and spoke to everybody that there was nothing but a 5-minute silence after he gave his presentation where everybody went, wow. And things changed. Things changed in terms of technically where they wanted Newcastle United to go and take it from there. Because at the end of the day, that's how important Eddie Howe is to the club at the moment.
I think the list that Barry sent us, we've had, let me have a look here. Since last week's show, the 11th, we've had links with Alex Collado, Renan Lodi, Matteo Guendouzi, Lucas Paqueta, Sandro Tonali, Moussa Dembele, Felix Nemecha, Xavi Simons, Arthur Melo, Kylian Mbappe, Desiree Doué, Nico Williams, Rogerio, and Leo Shahar. That's the latest.
It's easy for you to say.
So that's the latest links that Newcastle have had. Thanks to Barry for that. Any of them, ever? I mean, Paqueta, for instance, at West Ham. He's not going to leave West Ham, is he? Lodi, I think, is probably the only one on that list. I could say, yeah, I could see Lodi. We were linked with him last season. It hasn't. It didn't come off last season. It could still be a possibility, but I'm not sure about the rest. Felix Nemecha is an interesting one as well, lads.
Do you know what impresses me so much is a lot of the stuff that used to get blurted out around our club was from the agents, and they seem to have been able to shut the bloody agents up, and I don't know how they've done it. You have agents coming in, and we would know they were in, and then they'd be sat in bloody St James's Park talking to all and sundry that could speak to them about who they represented and why they were there. That seems to have just all stopped. And I think that's an amazing thing. I don't know how they've done it, but keep up the good work. Because I think that the more speculation there is, the less people seem to know, I think. And I think there are now people taking sort of almost a scattergun approach. They'll name 5 or 6 names, and one of them will come in and go, as we said. And there just seems to be so little getting out now.
And that's great because it does help calm things down. But we're still linked so far because if you remember, we got the list had a couple of doublers on. So we've been linked with 112 players since Barry started that list, which was on the 2nd of June. So 112 players since the 2nd of June, lads.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's mad. It's madness, isn't it? Okay, we've got lots of questions coming in, and we'll go with this one from John. We've touched on it a little bit, but let's read what John's got to say. He says, very good afternoon. Will the Saudi League threaten the significance of the Premier League in future years? It's just been confirmed the Wolves have accepted a Saudi bid of 47 million for Neves. This is hardly someone coming towards the end of their career. Surely in future, the development of the Saudi League will impact on the Premier League and other leagues. What's your thoughts, lads? Stu?
Well, I don't know how many times the people either side have said Saudi don't like to do anything but win. So it's, to me, some people who are watching this are old enough to remember when Pele went to America and they tried to recreate a league there or create a new brand there. We've seen it more in more recent years with China and America again, with Beckham and everything else going there. But they've looked at that, they've got the Vision 2030 and think, right, we need to be seen as up there, like a desirable attraction, a destination, etc. And yes, they've got the money, but China had the money, but they're just here, there, and everywhere. What they're getting is buying brands, they're buying top players who, yes, agreeably, a lot of them are at the end of their careers, but Neves isn't at the end of his career. And there will be more. And the only way you can make your league better is just like, what it reeks off to me, without getting too political with it, because I don't like the politics, it just reeks of xenophobia. Like, Saudi aren't allowed to improve their league. Why not? Why can't they improve their league? Why aren't they allowed to improve their league? And yes, they've got the money to do it. Qatar tried it, didn't they? They tried an All-Stars league or something like that, and they've watched every other team do it. Japan did it. Gary Lineker went to Japan, didn't he? So all of a sudden it's Saudi and it becomes a problem. To me, it shouldn't be a problem. If they build up that league where players want to go apart from just for the money, that's great. But who signs for Premier League teams apart from for the money? Who signs for the top teams in Europe apart from for the money? So if they're doing it, what they'll want to do is by 2030 have a league that is financially stable. But at the moment, they understand they're going to have to fund it. But very similar, just what they've done with Newcastle. They've had to fund us. How much have they spent on transfers? How much have they spent behind the scenes? Training grounds, recruiting new staff. You know, to me, they've probably spent as much as, in fact, I know they've spent as much on Newcastle as what they did by buying Newcastle. And that's in what, 18, 19 months, 20 months. So the money will be spent and the players will come into Saudi and more players will go. But for me, if someone says it's a problem, just think of the job that they do. And someone says, right, I'll double your salary, I'll treble your salary, I'll quadruple your salary. Come and do your job here. There'd be not many people that wouldn't move. So then you get the reputation of it being a competitive league, and then it becomes easier. And more people want to go and play in the same team as Ronaldo, play in the same team as some of the other top players that have went there. And that was my argument for why Ekitike went to PSG. You know, they were top of they are the club in France, aren't they? So he had a chance to maybe not play, but train with the likes of Messi and not Ronaldo, Messi and Neymar and Mbappe. That was always going to be the only destination once they came in for him. So you have to spend money to make money, and thankfully for us as Newcastle supporters, they're not shy of spending money. And if that's the way they see there, instead of having to go through a decade, 2 decades of building the league up slowly, let's get it done quicker. Let's speed it up, just like the country has as a whole. They've made huge changes. I know we've said many times they've made generational changes in the last 8-9 years, and they're trying to expedite everything to yes, call it sports washing if you want, but to put it in a better light where it's seen as a desirable destination. And for me, if they want to spend the money and buy, who are we to say in our ivory towers, no, you can't buy him, you can't buy him. I don't see an issue with it at all. And I don't think they're buying them to lend them to Newcastle either. So they're doing it for their own leagues.
Your good close personal friend Chip is in the chat as well. He says you can sing like Sam Smith, Stu.
I bet he could.
This is going to go on and on, I think. Yeah, the Saudi thing's interesting, Mitch. It you know, and Neves going across there. I mean, you know, he's going to get paid a king's ransom for going, and players are going to find it hard to turn down, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then the difficulty is keeping that open, keeping that personal form up and doing it in a different way. But my time out here, I've seen a number of different shifts. When I first came out, if you looked at the Asian Football Conference, it was all about being the best in Asia. And so the Asian Champions League was where everybody wanted to excel. And at the time, initially when I was out here, the UAE clubs had most of the money, and they were picking up players kind of at the end of their careers and being able to outperform with Asian teams. So Roy was at Al Ahly here, which is now being merged with a couple of different clubs. I've been to see Al Hilal with Roy home and away, and you know, and enjoyed it very much. But Roy was very keen that there seemed to be no plan for longevity, so it would be UAE, and then the J League and the Korean teams would take over, and then Qatari took over for a little bit. And I guess the person asking about this might be Roy Caviani, because he works for one of the Qatari Stars League clubs, and about where they're at financially at the minute. This move by Saudi feels a little different. This isn't just about being the biggest boy in Asia. This feels global. This feels like they want to disrupt football globally. Now, interesting thing that somebody signed up in the chat there was, would that force over time UEFA to rethink things like FFP? Yeah, it might. And that might be the idea. Let's create a free-for-all in Europe. Let's create a free-for-all in the Premier League. The one thing Stu will tell you, because he sells things to people in this region, they don't like being told what to do and what they can and cannot do with their own money. And so when they look at a set of rules that are arbitrary and they just seem like, well, hang on a minute, other people have benefited from this in the past, why can't we? That one way to disrupt everything would be to set your own little haven up where people will come for the money. However, as we've seen here, when players have come out here in the UAE, and we've had some big name players out here, even Kabaye finished his career out here. It really did feel like he was just coming for the cash flow. When he went to see him play at Al Wassel, it wasn't the same guy that we had. And so the challenge is keeping those players motivated. The classic Sir Bobby Robson phrase, how do you make a rich man sweat? And so what's your motivation for coming out here, and why are you coming out here, and what do you want to do, and where can you go from here? I find it interesting though, because this just feels a little bit different than some of the money-based moves I've seen in Asian football over the last 10 years. It seemed to be, right, it's Iran's turn, now it's Korea's turn, now it's Japan's turn, now it's Saudi's turn. This just feels global, and this feels very, very different. And that's what sort of makes me wonder what the long-term game is. Like in golf, all of a sudden, two hard and fast camps, people bitching at each other and creating problems with each other. And now all of a sudden money talks and everybody's happy again. And is that the way we're going? It's a curious one. I don't see where it's going other than to disrupt things globally. And if Newcastle United benefit from that, I'm all for it.
The same, Mitch, they're flexing the financial muscle. They're saying, okay, these are things you're doing, so we can do it this way. And it's, to me, it's a bit of intimidation as well. You know, they can do it and they will do it to show we can spend. Look how much we can spend. You're going to try and stop us, but we will find a way, legal way, not these dodgy loopholes. But it'll have them scattering in the background, won't it? Imagine in Premier League and even in UEFA, we can't stop this. UEFA don't run the Asian leagues, so they can do nothing about it. And then we think, well, what happens next? You know, and it's just putting a marker down to say, you know, we'll play by your rules, but stop with the nonsense. Play fair, and that's it. You know, we know fine well Tottenham, Liverpool, and Manchester United were so against us, and there was blatant only financial reasons that were against us because they feared. It's fear of loss, isn't it? Where Manchester City, with being allies in the region, were always going to be supportive of the Newcastle takeover, but also they were the most successful club at the moment, so they'll be the last ones to feel the pinch of the Geordie tidal wave. You know, I think Tottenham have already been swept aside. So Man City is the one that we're aiming for, and we will reach them. You know, so you can see the other ones. Arsenal, to me, have kept quiet. I think they had enough confidence in that they could get the top six. But you see Manchester United, they're so up and down, and they're panicking. They were very much against us. Thankfully, they didn't own us Lingard and things like that. So I wouldn't be doing them many favours. I know there's links with Chelsea. I'm sure Mitch will expand on that in a bit more. But why would we want to help them? Unless it helps us, it doesn't matter. So I seen a question earlier, Steve. Someone said, should we buy players from the top six? Yes, if they're going to improve our team. Why shouldn't we?
I've saved that one for the second half, actually. So let's no, it's okay, because we've got a few points which come up, and I've saved them. We'll touch on that in the second half. I've just seen George in the chat. Mitch, can you just let us know how your dad's doing?
Dad's doing great. He's home, feeling good, and he sounds good. When I spoke to him, he sounds bright, and he's looking forward to getting out here at the end of next week. He's bringing in the over, so I'm going to try and make sure they have a canny time while they're out and enjoy a bit of sun on their back. Just relax a bit, and we'll have some fun at the same time as well.
Great stuff. All right, we'll be back after the ad break.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and friends. The class of 84 is on at the Town Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Town Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000.
And just a quick shout out for this event. Tuesday, the 1st of August, Rob Lee's coming back to the Surf Cafe. The event the previous night has sold out. So there is one more event to go with Rob Lee. There are 8 tickets left. Tickets available from the Surf Cafe, Tynemouth.co.uk. Oh, we've got a bit of reverb because of Mitch. I think he's putting his headphones in. I'll just mute him. From Surf Cafe, tynemouth.co.uk/ticketweb.uk. Tickets, I think, are £29. So get yourself onto their website. 8 tickets left. Let's make that one a sellout as well. Okay, Stu, just coming to you on the question that was put in by Stephen Kennedy, and it was how much do you reckon the Big Six have to spend this window, and should we help them out by buying from them? You were just about to touch on that before we went to the ads.
I gave half an answer. Then we're not helping them out if we're buying from them. We're not buying them to be kind or anything like that. We'll be buying from anyone who has a player that we desire, and that our recruitment team think will benefit our squad. And to get the best players, you sometimes have to give the best teams money for their players, don't you? And it's if we go back to the first part of it, you start thinking, I can see us buying, well, as you know, I'm very sweet on Kieran Tierney. I think that's a doable transfer, even though yesterday Ben Jacobs claimed he exclusively broke it a couple of months ago. Thankfully, these are recorded in the archives of YouTube to show that I talked about it a lot more than 2 months ago. But someone like him, yes. But if I was being a bit naughty, I would start putting bids in just on settle players like the Salahs at Liverpool and stuff like that, and just to show them, because the press are still too very loyal to their favourite clubs, and that's why you see the links for Bruno and going to Liverpool. He would never leave Newcastle to go to Liverpool, and never in a month of Sundays. But it doesn't stop people writing it, and we as fans will bite. I suppose I am by mentioning it here. So you have links like that. Why can't we do the same back? You know, and just say, right, we'll bid for Salah. We're looking at Haaland or De Bruyne or something like that, just to unsettle them a little bit. But the way Newcastle now go about their business is very dignified, and as Mitch just mentioned earlier, they do it quietly. And I think the agents know this as well. If you want to do business with us, I don't think they ask them to sign NDAs, but they'll, if this leaks, we won't get your player. And if we don't get their player, they don't get their commission. And that's basically what the agents are in the job for. So they've learned fast. They've learned on the job very fast. So yes, we should be buying if it suits us, but not just buying for the sake of it. There's not many Chelsea players that I would take, to be honest. I don't think this Conor Gallagher is better than what we've got. So I wouldn't Mason Mount. To me, I'd rather have Joe Willock. I'd rather have Madison. So I don't see the benefit of buying players like that. But if a fit Reece James become available, then he'd be worth a bit at Chelsea. He's probably the only Chelsea player I think would improve our squad and fit into it. So yes, we should buy if it suits us, but not just buy for the sake of them. We should play hardball a bit more, and I'm sure they are.
Mitch, your feelings on dealing with the likes of Chelsea?
If it suits us, if it benefits our squad, and we're paying a good price, why not? But I don't expect we to go and pay overpriced. That will be helping them. I think we're in a fantastic position to lowball them and say, right, you need a bit of help with FFP. That's our price, and be prepared to walk away. And I've got no doubt that we are. What seems to be happening in my eyes is I'm wondering what Amanda and Mayor had down at Stamford Bridge not long after Bowley took over Chelsea. My feeling is, what's the best way to disrupt the big six is get some of them on board. And I would say it's clear that Man City would back us with the relationships between the UAE and Saudi. Making another ally within that group certainly disrupts, to use the word of the day, that group very much so. And that leaves, I tell you who that would leave Piggy in the middle, Arsenal, with Emirates sponsorship, because there could be pressure from the UAE. And then if Qatar do manage somehow to get hold of Man United, that tips the balance massively.
It's not Qatar, Mitch. It's Sheikh Jassim on his own.
Yeah. Well, the other one, it's got bells on it. It's sponsored by the 92 Foundation. So there's football politics at play here. And again, I would fully back everybody involved in the club who's so canny in business to know what they're doing when it comes to football politics too.
Just that the way we've conducted our business, to me, it gives off this impression to everyone else that we're serious and they're in it for the long term. They're not going away.
Yes.
So it could be a case of people, like you say, disrupting them. If we can't beat them, we'll join them. We'll make allies with these. These are going to be the new force. So why can't we just tag onto these and be their friends, and rather than try and stop them? Because we're not going to stop them anyway. Whichever way we go about it, we will not stop them. So if we can become friends with them, that can help us long term. And that's why if you mentioned the Tottenhams and teams like that, they've, for want of a better phrase, urinated on their own chipped potatoes. And they're in too much financial difficulty to try and compete with us on an even keel now. They've relied heavily on their UEFA, the Champions League money. They haven't got that. They've got their main or their prime footballing asset out of contract next season. They're going to lose him for nothing, or it could be the last week of the window, just take something like 60 million for him, or preferably for us, if he is to come to Newcastle, let Levy play hardball and everyone just keep away from him. Come to January, and it's quite clear Tottenham are just drifting outside of the European places. They'll take something for him. They'll better off taking 40 million than nothing. And then guess what? He hasn't played in Europe. He can come and join us for the last 16 in the quarterfinals and beyond. So that's the sort of thing that it's thinking outside the box and forward thinking that we've got. And I think other teams, they're either jealous and head out about it, or they'll look at it and marvel and think, do you know what? These are doing it exactly right, and we need to be on board with these. So I can say Man City, definitely Man City. Chelsea, I think, because this Bowley's a new kid on the block, and he made that many mistakes coming in with his fanfare about all-star games and North versus South and stuff like that. He's watched how dignified we've went about business and thinking, right, I can learn from these. And if it means we get one of their players at a price that we think is fair, then I think they would be more willing to sell to us than maybe one of the other 5 within that group of 6.
Did Tierney go off injured yesterday?
He's got a knock, but he should be all right.
Right. Okay. Lots of questions about ground redevelopment. Ian from Ian Toon Trader says, any news or rumours on the development of St James's Park yet?
Nothing that I've heard that's fresh to anything we've discussed in the not too distant past. Interested to see what they do with the fan zone idea that they've got and how they construct that and what the idea and where they want to put it. I think based on what happens with that area during the Magic weekend, we've got an idea what you could do with that area outside the Gallagher and then some if it was a permanent fixture. So I don't wonder if that's going to be the next focus of any kind of ground redevelopment.
Okay. Anything from your side, Stu?
No, nothing. But I think, and this is my opinion, if you start breaking it down and then scrutinising it a bit more, I think there'll be something announced this summer about a potential ground expansion, even if it's just for the Gallagher bit, and that'll incorporate the fan zone. And this is why last year, when the season tickets, now if 10,000 people handed the season tickets back in, how come there was only 1,000 put on sale? For me, the reason being is if they are expanding, then no season ticket holder would lose their seat. That's been my belief from the start, and I don't think we need to mention how often or how forward thinking we've got as a board of directors, as an owners. So I think there's little things are getting put into place. I did say, I think it was in July or August of last year, that they had been speaking to SKK or SSK, the leading stadium architects in the country. So I'm sure they've spoke to other people. There'll be plenty of plans and permissions, and now they're looking at it. And the fact that we're probably a year, 2 years ahead of schedule, we have to be careful where we're putting the money as well. And do we go out and create a brand new stadium and put 80,000 people in it? That's not going to happen any time in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So the obvious choice to me would be to expand St James's with the minimum disruption. And I wouldn't be surprised if by this time next year you'll see the cranes outside the ground.
Anything on new sponsors, Mitch? New training kit, opening up another new sponsor. A lot of people making a big thing about the training kit being on sale and no sponsors logo being on there.
No sponsor on it. Again, nothing concrete, other than everything's up for grabs at the right price, I think is the way to put it.
Not just the right price, the right marriage.
Right mix as well, yeah.
It has to be, you've seen that with Seller. There has to be a forward-thinking company where their brand's recognised, the brand has a good reputation, etc., etc. So they wouldn't just put someone comes in with a cryptocurrency. We know that they're adverse to using them. To me, the training top, everything's up for grabs, isn't it? The stadium, the stand, training ground.
On that front, if you look at Chelsea Supporters Trust today, they've released a statement about not being happy with Chelsea's shirt sponsor being a betting company next season, and the next main commercial sponsor is a cryptocurrency company, and that's the way they're going, because I suspect that's the only way they can go. And if you start by upsetting groups of supporters about things like that, that's not a great way to be.
Steve, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why haven't you said I was right when we're talking about Chelsea and the money of Abramovich? Because you've said repeatedly that where is the money? He's still got it. He's not releasing it. And then lo and behold, out it comes that he's not releasing the money and it's still there. The government blatantly lied, but we shouldn't be surprised by this current government lying to people, that they said the money would go directly there and it was embargoed and he couldn't get his hands on it. It sounds like they can't get their hands on it. And they've just helped Chelsea out to improve. And to me, this needs to be investigated a bit more thoroughly and probably get brushed under the carpet.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I mean, I have said it. It wasn't through any inside information. I think it was just fairly obvious to anybody, especially when Bowley started spending money like that. It does need to be investigated. It's you know, it's just another in the long line of things which other people seem to get away with, and Newcastle would probably be held accountable if it was us doing it. But yeah, disappointing. But we just like to smile, don't we, and nod and go, you know, and we don't like to say "I told you so" on here. We just, you know, we're trying to create a program and a
Just
platform.
do our nails and smirk quietly in the corner.
Exactly. Mr. Anderson says, "Hi lads, I'd like to ask a question for a friend. It's off topic. My friend is a Sheffield United Football Club supporter, and they have had links to a new Saudi consortium takeover. Would you have any news on that?"
I've got no news on that, but I don't think there'll be an issue with other, because it's the PIF are the biggest of the big, but there's plenty of wealthy businesses out there who would be wanting to have a part of the English Premier League. So I don't see an issue with that. You've got more than one American owner, you've got more than one British owner. Why can't you have more than one Saudi owner? It's just that we will have the funds available more than anyone else's.
Thank you.
Water a bit at this time of night.
Yeah. Yes, we didn't speak about wearing Adidas tops, but it didn't go unnoticed by us when we were when we were on there. John Justice Allen, good afternoon. He says, I said from day one, no billionaire walks away from 2 billion without a court case. Yeah, John, we've all had similar feelings, it has to be said. Ian, again, with another good question. He says, do you think that Arsene Wenger's statement on financial fair play needing to be less restrictive to clubs in Europe is linked to the Saudi leagues buying off players, Mitch and Stu?
I think that's linked to a bigger picture that he has in the Middle East. He's out here a lot with beIN Sports, and he does a lot of work in Qatar, particularly with Aspetar, the football medicine place. He's doing a lot of work with FIFA and UEFA, but FIFA in particular. He's very vocal about VAR at the moment as well. I think he has a very, let's just say, I think he's got a Middle East regional bias at the moment for one reason or another. And I don't think it's about just about the Saudi leagues, etc. I think it's he sees a bigger picture now from being in this part of the world.
Okay, Stu, your thoughts on that? On the
well, yeah, he's influenced because he's getting paid by Qatar, but also you've got Khalifa on the UEFA board, who's also chairman of PSG as well. So there's a lot of things at play here. But I'm surprised, and this is more down Keith's road, to be honest, but I'm surprised that the term restriction of trade hasn't come in. You know, why are people being stifled if they want to grow? If they've got the money, why shouldn't they be able to grow? And there's so many legal or legalities that could be questioned here. And I think the way Wenger's putting it across is saying, look, if you keep pushing something, it'll break eventually. And it's becoming more and more clearer that it's a closed shop at the top. And these people are trying to it's understandable to a point that they're trying desperately to protect what they've got and they don't want to share it. But by doing that, it takes out what the whole ethos of sport is, where, as we've seen last year, Cambridge United can come to St James's and win. You know, and you're going to get it to a term where it's nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. It'll be more Americanized, where there's no relegation and there's no promotion, and that takes out a lot of the emotion in sport, and that would be, to me, the death knell of the game. So I'm not saying that sitting from a Newcastle United supporters standpoint, where let us spend as much as we can, because even if they did take the shackles off, I don't think we'd go and spend like 600 million anyway, you know. But they would be able to reward the players they've got on higher contracts, and they'll just lift up a bit of the type of player that they've been targeting. You know, they've been targeting, knowing what their restrictions were. I know Eddie Howe alluded to it in his press conference that yes, we can look at different players because of where we finished. You know, that gives us a bit more money to play with, and then you've if you want to bore people with amortization and saying, right, we'll get 30 million more for that, we'll get 30 million for that, 25 for that, and we can spread it over. That's why I said earlier, we can go and buy any player in the world we want, but that player has to be part of 11 or part of a 19 or 20 on a match day. So we can't go out and buy 19 Haalands or 20 Mbappes. We have to make sure that the club grows or the team grows together by adding better players or just as good players as what we've already got. Gone are the days now we'll be bringing in rubbish without mentioning names because it's unfair, but bringing in crap just for the sake of bringing in crap. All the signings we make for the first team will be top quality players, and then you've seen again Dan Ashworth's worth by recruiting these young'uns, and I still think we'll spend 40 to 50 million on young'uns this window, where if we get 5 of them for around about the 10 million mark, or even 5 of them at 8 million a pop, it just takes one that may be worth 50 million, and that window's paid for itself. We still got the benefit of the other 4. So this is where we'll continue to grow, and with the rules that are put in front of us, we'll do as much as we can, not to exploit them, but to get the best out of it.
Thoughts on Maddison? Chippers is asking if you guys think that we'll go for Maddison after the England game tomorrow night against North Macedonia. Third apparent Spurs bid for Maddison, and Barnes is a smokescreen for us to bid. I mean, Maddison, I think it'll get done. Mitch, after tomorrow night's game, maybe?
Wouldn't surprise me. I think a lot of the players we may be interested in are currently on international duty, and that does seem to people don't seem to want to be actively doing business there because it might distract the player during his international phase. If it's true that Spurs have bid that for Maddison and Barnes, they're living on a different planet to everybody else. After what we've been told Maddison should be, what they wanted for Maddison originally, to go for the 2 of them for effectively the same amount of money, that's living in Cloud Cuckoo land. But maybe it also shows how stretched Spurs are financially, that they want to benefit from taking advantage of certain players. Maybe clubs that are relegated, or they're looking at the goalkeeper from Brentford, who apparently says he wants to go and win trophies and better his career. Well, I don't think he's going to do that at Spurs anytime soon. So, it's a curious statement, that one. I know there's a bit of a pot kettle thing from me there, but you look at the trajectory the 2 clubs are on. Why would you want to go there? If we, for example, were interested in him, I don't think we are, by the way. The lad's a good keeper. He's proved it last season. But to suddenly want to be off down the road to Spurs because they're interested in him, I'd question his actual real motivation in there rather than sticking with the Brentford side, who, frankly, for most of the season outperformed Spurs. And so if he wants to better himself as a player, there's better places he could go than Spurs. It also backs up the point about what's going on at Spurs at the minute. I'm telling you now, the word that we had from that dressing room was that keeper didn't want to come out for the second half against us and refused to come out in the second half against us. And that's what's going on in that dressing room at the moment. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it sounds like our dressing room, and they're not so distant past. And I think they're a club in real trouble, much bigger trouble than they realise. And as this extra interest level loan kicks in and starts to bite without the Champions League money coming in, I think they're going to struggle this summer in the transfer window. They brought, somebody in from Celtic who did well in Scotland, but I think that shows where their levels are, without being too disrespectful to Scottish football on an even where we're celebrating it. Let's be brutally honest. Has he pulled up trees at Celtic? Has he done special things at Celtic? Not really. Not for me. And so I think they're now in a position where cutting that cloth to suit is going to kick in if they're not careful.
Okay, Madison. And John's asking, will he be a Newcastle player before the window shuts? I'd say yes, John. There's no doubt about it. I think yes, he will be. Stu.
Yeah, it'd be wrong for me to say anything but yes after I've been talking about him for the last 3 windows signing for us. So my personal opinion, and again, this isn't from anything that I've been informed of. My personal opinion is that I think it's already agreed, and the way Tottenham, what they're trying to do, again, my opinion is trying to appease the fans, saying, "Look, we've bid for these players, but we couldn't contest with the financial might of these nasty Saudis who are going buying everyone. They would offer Madison more money than what we'll offer him on a weekly basis. Fact, they'll offer more money, but they can't offer the potential to win trophies and get the Champions League and then get in the Euro squad for next summer, which is what the players want. Once, Mitch will tell you, once you earn so much money, it doesn't matter how if you get an extra 5 or 10 a week. You know, so if you're the type of people that he deals with and I deal with, you know, it doesn't make this. It comes down to personal interest. And for me, I think Madison's for his career, if he chose Tottenham over Newcastle, I'm not saying he'd be ridiculed, but he'd be looked at, he'd be questioned. His mentality,
definitely questionable ambition.
His ambition would definitely be questioned. So I think it's gone, and I don't think there's. Well, I absolutely don't think there's no coincidence with these leaks of these photographs with him and Wilson. Yes, the Coventry lads, but then he posted one with him going past Trippier in a tackle and training thing. So to me, I think Madison is coming, and if he waited, and I've seen some adverse reaction on social media, people saying he waited till the end of the season to see if we got Champions League or Tottenham got Champions League. So what? Why wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's done the best thing for him, and if he has chosen us, which I believe he has, then is that not going to benefit us? Because he's going to have to come and say, right, okay, I can get in that team, but getting in the team and staying in the team, you have to perform top levels, as certain players have found out in the last 12 months at Newcastle United. So yeah, I think we're getting Madison, and I think we'll have at least two quality first team start signings before pre-season, at least 2 before pre-season, because I'm sure Eddie Howe wants as much of the nucleus of his squad together as quickly as possible, and then plan for the season accordingly.
Great stuff. That hour's flown over as always.
Give you a quick update on something if anybody's interested.
Go on, yeah. Is it about Mackham's wearing fluorescent, whatever that is?
Fluorescent boots. That's because I got him with it when we were off the show the other week. It's a long story. My mate Simon in San Diego, who'd ordered the shirts, then got an email saying the shirts had been cancelled, and then got an email then got a thing on his Apple Pay saying his credit card had been refunded, and then got an email off DHL saying that the shirts were on their way. The shirts are now in San Diego and will be delivered on June the 20th, 2023 by the end of the day. Welcome to the utter chaos that is ordering online with Newcastle United Football Club.
Unbelievable, Jeff. Great stuff as always, lads. Enjoy your drink, enjoy your night, whatever you're doing, and enjoy the rest of Father's Day. Great to see you, lads. Take care.
Good night, everyone. Enjoy your night. Happy Father's Day.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.